Ravi Patel wiped sweat from his forehead as the hotel kitchen clock showed 2 a.m. The young chef from Delhi had been working Mumbai's night shift for 6 months, dreaming of the day his cooking would catch the attention of someone important. His phone buzzed with a notification. Priya Sharma, the city's most feared food critic, had just posted another midnight review. Ravi's eyes widened. She'd reviewed his hotel's room service, giving it 5 stars, but something felt strange. The legendary critic only dined between midnight and 5 a.m., and nobody knew why. As steam rose from the tandoor behind him, Ravi made a decision that would change everything. Tonight, he would follow her. Priya Sharma moved through Mumbai's sleeping streets like a shadow with purpose. For 15 years, she'd built her reputation reviewing restaurants when the rest of the city slept. Restaurant owners feared her brutal honesty. A single bad review could empty dining rooms for months. But tonight, like every night, she wasn't heading to any place listed on food apps. The narrow lane ahead flickered with the golden glow of propane burners and charcoal grills. Here, in spaces that didn't officially exist, Mumbai's real food culture thrived. Priya adjusted her glasses and checked her watch. The meeting would start soon, and she had promises to keep. Ravi's heart raced as he followed Priya through streets he'd never explored, despite months in Mumbai. The city transformed after midnight. Delivery trucks rumbled past, night watchmen huddled around small fires, and the smell of fresh bread drifted from hidden bakeries preparing for dawn. He stayed 50 meters behind, using every trick learned from kitchen stealth to remain unnoticed. Where was she going? The path led away from Mumbai's restaurant districts into residential areas, where migrants and workers rented tiny rooms. Suddenly, Priya turned into an unmarked building. Ravi hesitated. Following Mumbai's most powerful food critic into the unknown felt like stepping into another world entirely. Through a crack in the door, Ravi witnessed something extraordinary. The apartment had been transformed into a makeshift restaurant where 24 people sat on cushions around low tables. Construction workers from Bangladesh, domestic helpers from Philippines, security guards from Nepal, all sharing dishes Ravi had never seen in Mumbai's fancy restaurants. Priya sat among them, not as a critic but as a friend, scribbling notes while a Syrian woman served aromatic rice. The conversations flowed in Hindi, English, Arabic, creating a symphony of languages. This wasn't fine dining. This was something more precious, a place where Mumbai's invisible workers could taste home. Ravi's assumptions about food criticism crumbled as he watched Priya hand out business cards with gentle encouragement. What exactly had he discovered? Amira Hassan's hands moved with practiced grace, shaping spiced meat into perfect kibbeh balls. 5 years ago, she'd fled Syria with recipes as her only inheritance. Now, her Mumbai apartment fed homesick souls every night after midnight. "In Damascus, we cooked for family," she explained to Priya in accented Hindi. "Here, every lonely worker becomes family." The apartment filled with scents of sumac, pomegranate, and mint, flavors that transported tired immigrants back to safer times. Through her window, Mumbai's skyline glittered, but inside these walls, geography dissolved. Priya documented every detail, knowing Amira's story represented thousands of others. In Mumbai's shadows, food became more than sustenance. It became resistance against forgetting who you were before the city swallowed your name. "Following food critics is dangerous hobby, young man." Priya's voice cut through the corridor's silence, like her reviews cut through restaurant pretensions. Ravi froze, caught between flight and explanation. Up close, the feared critic looked tired but kind, her eyes holding secrets darker than Mumbai's alleys. I wanted to understand," Ravi stammered. "Your review of our hotel confused me. You praised food I know isn't special." Priya studied him carefully, seeing something in his earnest face. "Not special? You fed 70 night shift workers affordable, decent meals. That's more special than any molecular gastronomy." She glanced back at Amira's door. "But if you want to understand my work, prepare yourself. Mumbai's real food story will break your heart before it fills your stomach." Jinwoo's wok danced over roaring flames, sending sparks into Mumbai's humid night. The Chinese cook had perfected his mobile kitchen, compact enough to dodge police, equipped enough to serve authentic Sichuan that made grown men cry. 15 years I cook fancy hotel, he told Priya in broken Hindi. But real cooking happens here. Taxi drivers who hadn't slept in 20 hours lined up for his dan dan noodles, each bite a capsicum explosion that jolted exhausted bodies awake. Security guards from nearby buildings shared tables made from overturned crates, finding community in shared spice tolerance. Jin's cart was more than food. It was an information exchange where workers learned about job openings, shared warnings about exploitative employers, and maintained dignity through honest transactions. Lakshmi Devi commanded her community kitchen like a general planning battle strategy. At 58, the former domestic worker had transformed her housing society's unused space into a lifeline for elderly night shift workers. Security uncle has diabetes, less rice, more sabzi, she instructed volunteers packing tiffin boxes. Savitri auntie works hospital cleaning until 4 a.m, extra chapati for energy. Each steel container carried more than food. It held proof that someone remembered these invisible workers existed. Priya watched Lakshmi coordinate 15 volunteers, 50 meals, and delivery routes covering half of suburban Mumbai. Government forgot us, Lakshmi explained simply, so we feed ourselves. The operation ran entirely on small donations and surplus vegetables from sympathetic vendors. You think I'm harsh on restaurants? Priya asked, as they navigated the empty wholesale market. Ravi nodded, remembering establishments she destroyed with single paragraphs. Last month, I reviewed Saffron Palace. 5-star hotel, celebrity chef. Do you know their kitchen staff works 16-hour shifts without overtime? Their washers sleep in storage rooms because they can't afford transport home. The market's silence amplified her words. My harsh reviews target places that exploit workers while serving conscience-free luxury to wealthy diners. But these midnight places, where humans treat humans with dignity despite having nothing, they deserve every star I can give. Ravi felt his culinary worldview fracturing. He'd spent years chasing Michelin dreams while ignoring the foundations of food culture, fair wages, respect, and community. So your midnight reviews are love letters to people who understand food's true purpose. Inspector Mehta's arrival shattered the underground restaurant's warm atmosphere like glass. Uniformed officers filled the small space while diners froze mid-bite. But something felt wrong about this raid. Mehta's eyes held worry, not authority. Priya ji, we need to talk, he said quietly, ignoring the frightened immigrants. Certain restaurant associations have filed complaints. They claim you're promoting illegal establishments that steal their business. He glanced meaningfully at the terrified diners. I can delay action tonight, but powerful people are watching your reviews. They connect dots between your criticism and their empty tables. Priya stood firm despite the warning. These people harm no one. They feed workers your department ignores. Mehta sighed deeply. I know. My own father sold chai illegally when we first came to Mumbai, but politics and food make dangerous curry. Please, be careful. Dawn crept through the hotel kitchen windows as Ravi prepared staff meal with transformed purpose. His colleagues noticed the change. Instead of leftover guest food, he made fresh dal and vegetables, properly spiced and generously portioned. What happened to you? Asked Sandeep, another line cook. Ravi couldn't explain the entire night, but something fundamental had shifted. He watched his co-workers, migrants from Bihar, Odisha, Bengal, eat hurriedly before the breakfast rush. How had he never noticed their exhaustion, their stories? I learned that feeding people matters more than impressing critics, he said simply. The head chef would arrive soon, demanding perfect French sauces and molecular foams. But Ravi now understood that real cooking happened when you fed someone who truly needed it, when your food said, you matter, in a world that insisted otherwise. Priya's fingers flew across the keyboard, crafting another carefully coded review. To casual readers, she was praising a new South Indian restaurant's dosa. But workers who followed her blog understood the real message. The address belonged to a Tamil family who fed construction workers at 3 a.m, accepting whatever payment people could manage. Each word was deliberate. Authentic flavors meant fair wages, generous portions indicated respect for workers. Hidden gem literally meant hidden from authorities. Her dual life exhausted her, but 15 years of documentation had created an underground map of Mumbai's dignity. The wall behind her displayed hundreds of photos, faces of people who existed in shadows but deserved spotlight. Her phone buzzed with messages from similar networks emerging in Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai. The movement was growing beyond her control. Good. Real change never depended on one person. No. Feel the dough speak to you, Amira corrected gently as Ravi struggled with Syrian flatbread. His trained hands, so confident with French techniques, fumbled with ancient methods. In Damascus, my grandmother taught me. She learned from her grandmother. This recipe survived wars, displacement, but it cannot survive impatience. The afternoon sun caught flower motes dancing between them. Ravi realized he was learning more than bread. He was understanding how food carried memory, identity, resistance. When I serve this bread at midnight, grown men cry, Amira continued. Not from sadness, from remembering their mother's hands. She showed him how to achieve the perfect pocket, how to know by touch when fermentation was complete. Your fancy hotel teaches you to cook for critics. I teach you to cook for hearts. Restaurant supplier won't sell to cart operator, Jin explained as they met his vegetable contact at 5 a.m. But Rashid here understands, good ingredients make good business, legal or not. The vendor, a Kashmir immigrant, selected the best chilies and newest ginger for Jin's cart. Their transaction involved more than money. Information about police patrol schedules, warnings about health inspector routes, news of which construction sites had hungry workers. Ravi watched this parallel economy function on trust and mutual survival. My cousin needs job, Rashid mentioned casually. Jin's friend at textile factory has opening, Jin replied. Every transaction strengthened an invisible network supporting thousands of families. You see, Jin told Ravi, fancy restaurant has HR department. We have this. Humans helping humans. Which system works better? Lakshmi's operation had evolved into military precision. Sector 7 needs 3 diabetic meals tonight, she announced, updating her hand-drawn map. Volunteers checked WhatsApp groups where night workers reported elderly colleagues needing food support. Remember, Tuesday means Jain meals for Building B. Thursday is Father Francis's Christian Seniors Group. Her system fed 300 elderly workers across Mumbai's night shifts, all coordinated through smartphones and sharp memory. Ravi marvelled at the efficiency rivaling any restaurant chain. Government gave us nothing, so we became government, Lakshmi stated matter-of-factly. Each tiffin carried a small note, sometimes prayer, sometimes joke, always reminder that someone cared. Loneliness kills faster than hunger, she explained. We feed both body and soul. They're organizing against us, Priya announced to the gathered network leaders. Her apartment, usually a sanctuary, felt smaller with the weight of threats. Restaurant Owners Association hired investigators. They're documenting our illegal operations to pressure police action. Amira clutched her tea tighter. Jin's weathered face hardened, but Lakshmi smiled grimly. Let them come. We survived worse. Priya spread papers showing similar networks in Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, all inspired by Mumbai's model. We're not alone anymore. What started as feeding workers has become movement for dignity. They discussed countermeasures, legal aid contacts, sympathetic journalists, politician allies who remembered their own migration struggles. Fear won't stop us, Jin declared. Every night, thousands depend on our food. We don't abandon family. The meeting continued past dawn, planning resistance against forces that preferred workers invisible and hungry. Ravi pipetted passion fruit foam onto a plate worth more than Jin's daily earnings. The molecular gastronomy that once thrilled him now felt like expensive theatre. Around him, the hotel kitchen buzzed with preparation for a corporate event, 500 plates at astronomical prices for executives who'd nibble politely. His mind drifted to Amira's apartment, where the same money could feed immigrant families for months. Chef wants more gold leaf, his colleague announced. Gold leaf, on food. while Lakshmi counted every grain of rice to stretch donations. The head chef praised Ravi's technical precision, hinting at promotion opportunities. But what was the point of climbing a ladder built on others' backs? That night, watching wealthy diners Instagram his artistic plates while ignoring the humans who served them, Ravi made a choice. His culinary future wouldn't be here. "They're moving faster than expected," Mehta warned, wrapping hands around his cutting chai for warmth. The 24-hour stool provided cover for their conversation. "Restaurant lobby has connections I can't fight. Next week, coordinated raids across all your documented locations." Priya's face remained calm despite the devastating news. Years of work, hundreds of livelihoods, threatened by wealthy interests protecting profit margins. "Can you warn them?" she asked. Mehta nodded slightly. "Unofficially. But Priya ji, they want you specifically. Your reviews cost them lakhs in lost business. They paint you as criminal mastermind running illegal food cartel. The absurdity might have been funny if stakes weren't so high." "What do you suggest?" Priya asked. "Go public. Tell the real story before they control narrative. You have followers, influence. Use it." The inspector finished his tea, leaving money on the counter. "My father sold chai like this once. I haven't forgotten." "You're throwing away your career," the head chef declared, holding Ravi's resignation letter like contaminated waste. Around them, the lunch service continued with mechanical precision. "Maybe," Ravi replied calmly, "or maybe I'm finding it." He folded his apron carefully, remembering how proudly he'd first worn it. The executive chef position, the international training opportunities, the prestige, all evaporating with this choice. But he thought of Amira's tears over perfectly fermented dough, Jin's pride in feeding exhausted workers, Lakshmi's maps of elderly people who'd eat tonight because someone cared. "Where will you go?" asked Sandeep, his friend. "To kitchens that matter," Ravi answered. The head chef's final words followed him out. "You'll be back when reality hits." But Ravi had already met reality. It tasted like dignity, seasoned with justice, served at 3 a.m. to people the world forgot. Priya stared at her screen where 15 years of secrets waited to explode across the internet. "Why I really review restaurants at midnight," the headline that would end her double life. Her cursor blinked at the first paragraph. "Dear Mumbai, you know me as the critic who destroyed restaurants. Today I reveal who I really protect." Each word meant risk, legal action, professional ruin, physical danger, but silence meant betraying thousands who trusted her. She wrote about Amira's Syrian suppers, Jin's information network, Lakshmi's elder care system, named the restaurants that paid starvation wages while serving 1,000-rupee cocktails, exposed the shadow economy that fed the city's real workforce. Her phone already buzzed with panicked calls from editors. By morning, the article had gone viral. Restaurant owners threatened lawsuits. But more importantly, workers across India read about dignity being possible. The secret was out. The revolution had begun. Mumbai woke to truth splashed across every news outlet. Famous food critic exposes underground worker network, competed with restaurant mafia, targets immigrant kitchens for headline space. At bus stops, construction workers read Priya's words aloud to illiterate colleagues. In glass towers, restaurant executives held emergency meetings about damage control. The story had exploded beyond food into labor rights, immigration, and economic justice. Taxi drivers shared WhatsApp forwards. Domestic workers discussed it in housing complexes. College students debated in cafeterias. For the first time, Mumbai's invisible workforce saw their struggles acknowledged publicly, but reactions varied sharply. While workers felt validated, powerful interests mobilized. Restaurant associations demanded arrests. Politicians calculated which side offered more votes. Social media battled between "us support Priya" and "us shut down illegal food" hashtags. The city's conscience had been forced awake. Now came the harder question: what would Mumbai do with this awakening? "So you're the young fool following Priya's crusade?" Chef Krishnan smiled from the shadows of his shuttered restaurant. At 72, he moved slowly, but his eyes burned with purpose. Ravi recognized him from faded newspaper clippings, once Mumbai's most celebrated chef, now forgotten.
I started this network 30 years ago,
Krishnan revealed, dust motes dancing in afternoon light through broken windows. Watched Bengali cooks sleep in storage rooms, saw Nepali guards faint from hunger during shifts. Fine dining meant nothing while humans suffered in my kitchen. He showed Ravi old ledgers documenting his secret support system, off-book meals, informal training, emergency loans. Priya was my student. Now the network has grown beyond our dreams. The old chef handed Ravi a worn recipe book. Traditional techniques, but more importantly, philosophy of feeding souls. The network needs young blood. Will you carry this forward? They came for Amira at dawn, uniformed officers filling her small apartment like an invasion. Operating illegal restaurant, they announced, photographing her mother's spice jars as evidence. Amira stood straight, hijab perfectly arranged despite the early hour intrusion. Years of displacement had taught her to face authority with quiet strength. I feed hungry people, she stated simply. Since when is kindness illegal? The officers ignored her, cataloguing cooking equipment while neighbors gathered in the hallway. Word spread quickly through WhatsApp networks. By the time they led Amira away, 50 residents had assembled. Some filmed on phones, others shouted support in multiple languages. We know where the real criminals eat, an elderly Tamil woman called out. The raid meant to intimidate instead revealed something powerful. The community would protect its own. Amira's arrest became a rallying cry. Jin's wok flamed higher as the crowd grew thicker. News of Amira's arrest had spread, bringing unexpected solidarity. Office workers joined construction laborers. Students stood beside elderly watchmen, all ordering noodles they didn't need, paying prices they insisted on raising. They want to scare us, Jin announced, tossing vegetables with extra flair. But fear tastes terrible in food. Tonight, we season with courage. Someone had printed Priya's article, taping pages to nearby walls. Police watched from a distance, unwilling to arrest Jin while hundreds surrounded his cart. Each bowl served became an act of rebellion. A software engineer helped Jin process digital payments. A lawyer offered free services. A doctor checked on elderly customers. The underground network had surfaced, revealing its true strength wasn't in shadows but in numbers.
40 years I cook, Jin declared. Never has food tasted more like freedom than tonight.
Lakshmi's community centre transformed into a revolution headquarters. Volunteers squeezed between towers of donated rice bags and vegetables. Her wall charts, once tracking 300 elderly workers, now showed thousands requesting support. Sector 12 needs 100 meals tonight, someone called out. Medical student volunteers for Bandra deliveries, another announced. The crackdown had backfired spectacularly. Instead of hiding, Mumbai's workers emerged demanding dignity. Retired teachers organised literacy classes. Unemployed youth became delivery riders. Housewives coordinated neighbourhood kitchens. They arrested one. Amira. Lakshmi smiled fiercely. Now they have 1,000 Amiras. Her phone rang constantly. Similar explosions of support reported from Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai. The movement had gained unstoppable momentum. 50 years they kept us invisible, she told the room. No more. We feed ourselves. We protect ourselves. We are Mumbai's true heart. Temperature danger zone is 5 to 60 degrees Celsius, Ravi explained, to 40 street food vendors crowded into the community centre. His hotel training, once used for molecular gastronomy, now served people who mattered. The vendors, many illiterate, sketched pictures to remember food safety principles. See? Proper cooling prevents bacteria, he demonstrated with simple equipment they could afford. An elderly dosa seller raised his hand. Sir, we know food, but nobody taught us science behind it. That was changing. Ravi had partnered with sympathetic health inspectors to create legitimate pathways for underground kitchens, forms in simple language, affordable certification processes, group licensing that shared costs. You're not illegal operators, he insisted. You're entrepreneurs feeding the city. Let's make it official. Hope replaced fear in weathered faces. They could emerge from shadows without losing authenticity. Knowledge was power, and Ravi was redistributing it spoonful by spoonful. "You're encouraging illegal activities that threaten public health," the news anchor accused, leaning forward aggressively. Studio lights blazed as Priya remained unflustered. 20 million viewers watched this primetime confrontation. "I'm documenting how Mumbai actually feeds itself," she responded calmly. "These aren't criminals. They're workers serving workers when your acclaimed restaurants are closed." The anchor shuffled papers dramatically. "Restaurant associations claim you've cost legitimate businesses crores in losses. Perhaps they should ask why customers prefer street vendors who treat workers fairly over establishments that exploit them," Priya countered. "Fair wages aren't radical. Dignity isn't illegal." Her composed truth cut through manufactured outrage. Social media exploded with support. The anchor tried redirecting to food safety concerns, but Priya had facts: lower contamination rates in community kitchens than many licensed restaurants. Truth was winning, one viewer at a time. "She's destroyed our industry," declared Vikram Malhotra, owner of 17 upscale restaurants. The Taj Ballroom hosted Mumbai's restaurant elite, united in fury. Crystal water glasses and imported coffee couldn't sweeten their bitterness. "My revenue's dropped 30% since her article," another owner complained. "Customers ask about worker wages now. It's embarrassing." They gathered to strategize crushing the underground network, protecting profit margins built on exploitation. Presentations showed lobbying budgets, political connections, legal strategies. "We employ thousands," someone argued. "These illegal operators steal our workforce with false promises." But cracks showed in their unity. Younger owners suggested reform might be cheaper than resistance. "Maybe we should just pay living wages," one ventured. Silence greeted this heresy. The old guard wouldn't surrender easily. They voted on aggressive measures, more raids, lawsuits against Priya, pressure on advertisers. War had been declared. Deputy Commissioner Sharma had expected filth and chaos. Instead, Lakshmi's kitchen gleamed cleaner than many licensed restaurants he'd inspected. "Try the dal, sir," she offered, unimpressed by his authority. Curiosity overcame protocol. The simple meal exploded with flavors his expensive lunches never achieved. Around him, volunteers efficiently prepared hundreds of meals with minimal resources. "How many people do you feed?" he asked, notebook forgotten. 3,000 elderly night workers weekly, Lakshmi replied matter-of-factly. "Government provides nothing, so we manage." Sharma calculated mentally. The social service his department failed to deliver, handled by unauthorized citizens. His driver, usually invisible to him, accepted a tiffin with grateful tears. "My mother works night shift at hospital, sir. This kitchen feeds her when canteen is closed." The official's worldview shifted. These weren't criminals but civil servants operating without recognition or salary. His report would shock superiors, recommending legalization rather than raids. Amira emerged from detention to find her street transformed into a festival. Syrian flags mixed with Indian ones. The aroma of her signature dishes wafted from dozen kitchens where neighbors had cooked her recipes in solidarity. "Amira Auntie Zindabad!" children chanted, offering marigold garlands. She'd spent 3 days in custody, but her spirit remained unbroken. Lawyers had worked pro bono, activists had protested, regular customers had raised bail money. "They wanted to frighten us," she addressed the crowd, voice strong despite exhaustion. "But fear cannot season food with love. Tonight we feast not in shadows but in light." The celebration wasn't just for her freedom, but for visibility achieved. No longer would immigrant cooks hide their contributions to Mumbai's culture. Her arrest had become their emancipation. That night, her apartment overflowed with supporters sharing Syrian bread, Indian sweets, Chinese noodles, Mumbai's true flavors mixing freely. "You have rights," the young lawyer explained patiently in Hindi, Tamil, Bengali, whatever language reached her audience. The community centre had become a legal aid camp where Mumbai's invisible workforce learned they weren't as powerless as believed. "Minimum wage applies even without formal contracts," another volunteer lawyer clarified. Street vendors discovered licensing wasn't as impossible as rumoured. Domestic workers learned about mandatory rest days. 20 years I work, never knowing these laws, an elderly security guard marveled. The lawyers, many from immigrant families themselves, translated complex regulations into actionable knowledge. Forms got simplified, group applications reduced costs, WhatsApp groups shared updates in multiple languages. They kept us ignorant to keep us scared, observed a young delivery rider. But knowledge spreads faster than fear. By evening, 100 workers had filed applications for various protections. The underground was surfacing legally, armed with law instead of hiding from it. This award belongs to every cook who feeds the forgotten, Priya declared from the press club podium. The Excellence in Journalism trophy felt heavy with irony. The same media that once dismissed her midnight reviews now celebrated her courage. Half the audience stood applauding while restaurant advertisers remained seated, faces sour. Journalism means amplifying unheard voices, she continued. For 15 years, I documented Mumbai's shadow economy. Not criminals hiding in darkness, but humans creating light where systems failed them. Cameras flashed as she named names. Amira, Jin, Lakshmi, hundreds more, made their stories permanent record. This recognition signals change. When mainstream media acknowledges margins, centers shift. Young journalists filmed on phones, inspired by alternative possibilities. Established critics fidgeted, realizing their comfortable relationships with power had been challenged. The award was more than metal. It was validation that truth mattered more than access. Welcome to Ravi's community kitchen, he announced to the mixed crowd of tech workers and night shift laborers. His restaurant dream had manifested differently than imagined. No Michelin stars, no celebrity visits, just honest food at honest prices. The menu board showed sliding scales, full price for those who could afford it, subsidized rates for workers, free for elderly and unemployed. Same quality for everyone, Ravi promised. His hotel training ensured food safety, while street vendor friendships provided authentic flavors. The space, a converted warehouse, lacked glamour but radiated warmth. Opening night saw unprecedented mixing, software engineers sharing tables with security guards, lawyers chatting with domestic workers. Food became the equalizer. You left 5-star for this? His former colleague asked, surveying the simple setup. No, Ravi smiled, watching a tired nurse enjoy affordable comfort food. I found my stars here. The kitchen window stayed open, showing transparency and preparation. Nothing hidden, everything honest. Law and justice aren't always identical, Inspector Mehta told the police academy batch. His presentation showed Lakshmi's kitchen, Jin's cart, Amira's apartment, once targets, now case studies in community policing. These operations technically violated regulations, but they prevented hunger, crime, social unrest, which serves public safety better. Young cadets took notes, worldviews expanding. Mehta had risked his career protecting the network, but results spoke louder than regulations. Crime had dropped in areas where community kitchens operated. Worker exploitation complaints decreased. Our job isn't just enforcing rules written by people who never missed meals, he continued. It's understanding why rules get broken and addressing root causes. He showed statistics, fewer hospital admissions for malnutrition, reduced domestic violence when families weren't stressed about food. Sometimes, protecting society means protecting it from badly written laws. The lecture would echo through Mumbai's police force, creating allies where once stood adversaries. From illegal cart to inspiration story, the business anchor announced as Jin appeared on split screen. Mumbai's financial press had discovered the underground economy's innovation. Tell us about your business model, the anchor asked seriously, treating Jin like any CEO. Simple, fair prices, good food, respect for workers and customers, Jin replied in improved Hindi. Graphics showed his expansion from one cart to training 20 operators, creating jobs while serving affordable meals. No MBA taught this? The anchor seemed amazed. Life taught, hunger taught, community taught, Jin responded. His story challenged traditional business narratives. No venture capital, no apps, just understanding unserved markets and filling needs. Business schools requested him as guest speaker. My success metric isn't profit, Jin explained.
It's how many tired workers go home with full stomachs and dignity intact. The interview went viral, inspiring thousands of informal entrepreneurs to see themselves as legitimate business people deserving respect. The Chief Minister placed the Social Service Medal around Lakshmi's neck while cameras captured history. The same government that once ignored her work now celebrated it publicly. Lakshmi Devi fed thousands while we debated policies, the minister admitted. Behind her, rows of elderly night workers beamed like proud children. These invisible citizens had never entered government buildings except as cleaners. Today, they sat as honoured guests. I accept this for all volunteers who served without recognition, Lakshmi stated simply. Her wall charts, once evidence of illegal activity, were now displayed as innovative social service models. Officials promised support, resources, formal recognition. She listened politely, knowing promises came easier than action. Real award isn't this medal, she whispered to supporters. It's that you can eat without hiding. The ceremony marked a shift, margins moving towards centre, shadows receiving spotlight. But Lakshmi knew real work continued at 3 a.m, medal or not. In hospital corridors, elderly cleaners passed around newspaper clippings like treasured photos. For the first time in their lives, their stories appeared in print beyond crime reports or accident statistics. "Look, that's me!" exclaimed Sahib, pointing to his quote about working 3 jobs to send children to school. The article, part of a series following Priya's exposé, had given names and faces to statistics. Security guards screenshot stories on cheap smartphones. Domestic workers asked employers' children to read articles aloud. Each story validated decades of invisible labour. "They called me entrepreneurs, not illegal vendor," a street food seller marvelled. The visibility was more than vanity, it was dignity restored. Employers who'd never known workers' names suddenly asked about their lives. Children felt pride rather than shame about parents' occupations. "We exist," an elderly woman whispered, clutching the newspaper. "Finally, we exist." The underground had surfaced not as criminals but as heroes. "We're losing customers to street vendors because we deserve to," declared Ananya Mehta, youngest member of the Restaurant Association. The boardroom erupted in chaos. Old guard members who'd built empires on exploitation faced rebellion from within. "My millennial customers care about worker treatment," another young owner added. "They check Priya's reviews for ethical ratings now." Vikram Malhotra, association president, struggled maintaining order. His faction wanted warfare against underground kitchens. But younger members proposed radical alternative, actually improving worker conditions. "Paying living wages isn't charity, it's smart business," Ananya continued. Studies showed employee retention saved money. Happy workers provided better service. Ethical practices attracted conscious consumers. "You're destroying our industry," Malhotra accused. "No, uncle, you destroyed it with greed. We're trying to save it with humanity." The vote split generationally. Though old guard maintained majority, cracks had formed. Change was coming, willingly or not. Priya's blog had evolved from food reviews to revolution headquarters. Her laptop screen showed hundreds of comments coordinating underground networks across India. "Chennai Group needs pressure cooker donations," one read. "Kolkata vendors organising safety certification workshop," announced another. The comment threads became lifelines connecting isolated operations. A map widget tracked new community kitchens, red pins multiplying daily across subcontinent. Delhi reported 50 new operations. Bangalore coordinated legal aid. Hyderabad shared hygiene protocols. "Digital platform, analog values," Priya murmured, approving another verified kitchen. Each listing included worker testimonials, safety certifications, and fair wage guarantees. Mainstream food apps had rejected these vendors. So Priya built alternative infrastructure. Tech volunteers created mobile apps. Translation teams made content accessible in 12 languages. "We're not competing with Zomato," she explained to a documentary crew. "We're creating Janata, people's platform for people's food." The internet, once tool of privileged, became weapon of equity. History unfolded in Conference Room 3B as Minister Sharma faced Mumbai's underground food leaders. Amira adjusted her hijab nervously. Jin's weathered hands rested on official table. Lakshmi studied proposed policies with sharp eyes. "We're not seeking permissions," Lakshmi stated clearly. "We're informing you how Mumbai actually feeds itself." Officials shifted uncomfortably. They'd expected grateful supplicants, not equal partners. Ravi translated technical terms while Priya documented every word. The demands were simple but revolutionary: streamlined licensing for micro-enterprises, recognition of community kitchens as essential services, protection from harassment. "You want us to legitimize illegal operations?" an official asked. "We want you to acknowledge reality," Amira responded. "Thousands depend on our illegals' food because your legal systems failed them." By meeting's end, officials had agreed to pilot programs. Not from kindness, but from pragmatism. The underground had grown too powerful to suppress. Handshakes felt historic. The margins had forced themselves onto official agenda. "See how glove prevents contamination," Ravi demonstrated to 20 street vendors crowded in his community kitchen. His 5-star training, filtered through street wisdom, created curriculum no hotel school offered. The vendors, experts in flavor but untrained in formal safety, absorbed every detail. "Same principle works with small burner or big tandoor," he explained. Charts showed temperature controls in simple graphics. Recipes got standardized without losing authenticity. "My grandmother never used thermometer," one vendor protested. "Your grandmother didn't face health inspectors," Ravi replied gently. "We preserve her flavors while protecting customers legally." Each student would return to their carts armed with certification, knowledge and dignity. The underground was professionalizing without losing soul. "You're not just vendors," Ravi insisted during graduation ceremony. "You're culinary professionals serving Mumbai's most important customers, workers who trust you with their health and hunger." 20 certificates got distributed. 20 small businesses stepped closer to legitimacy. "Effective immediately. All our establishments will pay living wages," announced CEO Rajesh Khanna, his empire of 40 restaurants finally bending to public pressure. Cameras flashed as Mumbai's most powerful restaurateur admitted what Priya had exposed: success built on exploitation wasn't sustainable. "We've lost touch with our workforce," he continued, reading prepared statement. Behind him, charts showed new benefits: health insurance, regular hours, dignity. The announcement followed weeks of boycotts, empty tables, and social media campaigns. Young customers had voted with wallets, choosing ethics over ambience. In the audience, Priya allowed herself small smile. One domino falling would trigger others. Competition would force industry-wide changes. "Will you rehire workers terminated for organizing?" a journalist pressed. "All former employees are welcome back with full benefits," Khanna answered, sweating under lights. The underground's victory was forcing overground reform. Change that started in shadows now happened in spotlight. Jin surveyed his fleet of 10 carts lined up for morning inspection. What started as survival had become thriving enterprise. Each cart bore his logo, a wok embracing Mumbai's skyline. "Remember, consistency in spice, generosity in portion," he instructed new operators. His training program had waiting list. Former security guards, retired workers, young immigrants, all seeing possibility in wheeled kitchens. "Mr. Jin gave me life," testified Rohit, whose cart now supported 3 children's education. The business model was revolutionary. Jin provided carts, training and supplies. Operators kept majority profits after small franchise fee. No exploitation, just shared success. "Banks wouldn't give loan for cart," Jin explained to business students visiting. "So we became our own bank." His operators pooled resources, supporting each other through slow periods. The network had grown beyond food into mutual aid society. "This is real entrepreneurship," one student marveled. "Creating opportunity for others, not just yourself." Jin smiled. "Success tasted better when shared." "Congratulations, you're now legally certified," the health inspector announced, handing Amira the framed certificate. The same kitchen once raided as illegal now met every official standard. Neighbors erupted in celebration, filling her small apartment with joy. From refugee to restaurant owner, Amira whispered, tears flowing freely. The journey had been brutal: arrest, legal battles, countless inspections. But community support never wavered. Customers had crowdfunded renovation costs. Lawyers worked pro bono. Fellow refugees shared expertise. "This paper doesn't make my food better," she told supporters, "but it means I cook without fear." The certificate represented more than personal victory. It proved underground operations could meet regulations when given fair chance. "Next goal," announced her lawyer, chain of Syrian home restaurants across Mumbai. Amira laughed, overwhelmed by possibility. 5 years ago, she'd arrived with nothing but recipes and grief. Now she fed hundreds while building bridges between cultures. The certificate was nice, but acceptance was everything. "This chart tracks dietary requirements for 3,000 elderly workers," Lakshmi explained as government officials frantically took notes. Her community kitchen had become mandatory study for urban planners designing food security programs. "How do you manage such scale without computers?" a bureaucrat marveled. "We use hearts and phones," Lakshmi replied simply. Her volunteers demonstrated the human technology: WhatsApp groups for coordination, hand-drawn maps for delivery routes, color-coded tiffins for dietary needs. "This efficiency surpasses our funded programs," admitted the lead official. They'd come expecting charity kitchen. Instead, they found sophisticated operation run on wisdom rather than wealth. "Your budget?" another asked. "Whatever people donate, we waste nothing, especially not money on administration." The delegation left with 100 pages of notes, promising to implement Lakshmi's model citywide. She smiled knowingly. They'd try replicating systems, but might miss the secret ingredient: caring about people more than processes. "All in favor of forming Mumbai Night Workers Union?" asked Rajan, the security guard who'd become unlikely leader. Hundreds of hands rose in the community centre: cleaners, guards, delivery riders, kitchen staff. Years of underground solidarity had created foundation for formal organising. "Together, we negotiate. Alone, we beg," Rajan declared. The union would demand what individual workers couldn't: living wages, reasonable hours, basic dignity. Priya had provided publicity. Lawyers offered structure. But workers themselves drove this movement. "My daughter can attend college because Jin's network got me better job," shared one member. "Lakshmi's kitchen fed me when employer withheld wages," added another. These stories bound them stronger than any contract. By meeting's end, they'd elected representatives, drafted demands, and planned actions. The underground network had been practice round. Now came the real fight: changing laws, not just surviving despite them. "They needed us invisible to exploit us," Rajan concluded. "Now we stand in light, together." Chapter 1. The Critic Who Couldn't Sleep, Priya typed, surrounded by 15 years of documentation. Every photo told story: Jin's first cart, Amira's arrest, Lakshmi's medal ceremony. Publishers had offered massive advance for the book that would memorialize Mumbai's food revolution. But Priya struggled with perspective. Should she center herself or the workers? "Tell truth," Amira had advised. "You gave us voice, but we spoke our own words." The book would weave multiple narratives: her journey from restaurant critic to activist, workers' transformation from shadows to spotlight, city's evolution from exploitation to dignity. "Mumbai doesn't sleep because Mumbai cannot afford to," she wrote. Each chapter would profile different aspect of underground economy, making visible what power preferred hidden. Her phone buzzed with updates from networks nationwide. The movement had outgrown her, which was exactly the point. Books end, but revolutions continue. Still, someone needed to document how ordinary people changed extraordinary city. "Key is balancing social mission with financial sustainability," Ravi explained to 20 visitors from Delhi, Pune, and Ahmedabad. His community kitchen had become pilgrimage site for aspiring social entrepreneurs. The delegation included former IT workers, retired teachers, and young graduates, all seeking alternatives to traditional business. "We're not charity," Ravi emphasized. "We're proving ethical business models work." His slides showed the numbers: fair wages, affordable prices, modest but consistent profits reinvested in expansion. Can this work in smaller cities? Asked a visitor from the Sheikh. Every city has night workers needing food, Ravi replied. Model adapts to local needs. By session's end, he'd shared everything: suppliers, licenses, recipes, financial structures, no trade secrets in revolution. You're giving away competitive advantage, observed one business student. Competition is with hunger and exploitation, not each other, Ravi corrected. We win when every worker eats with dignity. 20 cities would soon have community kitchens. The underground had become overground movement. You a police officer who saw humans, not criminals, Lakshmi said, presenting Inspector Mehta with hand-woven shawl. His retirement ceremony wasn't at police headquarters, but in the community centre he protected. Jin served special noodles. Amira had baked Syrian sweets. Ravi prepared full meal. The underground network gathered to honour the officer who'd chosen justice over easy arrests. 30 years carrying badge, Mehta reflected, voice thick with emotion. But real service happened after meeting all of you. Young officers attended, learning that enforcement meant more than blindly following orders. He warned us about raids, Jin shared, gave us time to protect documents people, connected us with sympathetic lawyers, Amira added, taught us our rights. These testimonies painted portrait of law enforcement at its best, protecting vulnerable rather than powerful. Mehta's replacement had already met with network leaders, promising to continue his approach. My career ends, but what we built continues, Mehta said. The shawl would hang in his home, reminder that sometimes greatest service means refusing to serve injustice. The aroma of 100 different dishes filled the crematorium grounds as Mumbai's food workers bid farewell to Chef Krishnan. He passed peacefully at 75, surrounded by recipes and letters from cooks he'd mentored. He fed our bodies and souls, Priya spoke at the memorial. Traditional Hindu rites mixed with Muslim prayers, Christian hymns, and Buddhist chants, reflecting the unity Krishnan had fostered. Each mourner had brought a dish Krishnan had fostered. Each mourner had brought a dish, creating the most diverse buffet Mumbai had ever seen. His last words were, "Keep feeding," Ravi shared, voice breaking. The old chef's recipe book had been photocopied hundreds of times, ensuring his knowledge would spread like seeds. Former students from 30 years of secret training sessions stood together, now successful restaurateurs, community leaders, and activists. From his small acts, great movement grew, observed a Buddhist monk who'd been fed during hard times. The funeral became celebration of philosophy that outlived its creator. 1 year after the exposé, Mumbai's midnight streets had transformed. Where once shadows hid illegal vendors, now official night food zones thrived under proper lighting. Priya walked through lanes she'd once navigated secretly, marvelling at change. Jin's cart displayed its license prominently. Former underground operators served openly, uniforms clean and heads high. Night workers lined up without fear of raids or exploitation. "Madam, your regular order?" called out Prakash, whose cart she'd first reviewed 5 years ago. Now he employed 3 people and served hundreds nightly. City government had finally acknowledged reality. Night shifts needed night food. Designated zones, streamlined licensing, and fair regulations had brought underground overground. "We still cook with love," Amira assured from her official restaurant expansion, just now with proper exhaust fans. The revolution hadn't eliminated all problems. Some workers still faced exploitation. But foundations had shifted. Dignity was no longer illegal in Mumbai after midnight. "This year's award goes to chef who feeds souls, not egos," announced the presenter at the Alternative Food Awards. Ravi stepped forward, accepting trophy that meant more than any Michelin star. The audience wasn't food critics or celebrities, but night workers, street vendors, and community organizers. His citation read, "For proving excellence means accessibility, and success means service." Former hotel colleagues watched from back row, some inspired, others confused by his choices. "Year ago, I chased recognition from people who'd never missed meals," Ravi said. "Now I cook for those who know hunger intimately. Their satisfaction means everything." His community kitchen had inspired 20 others nationwide. The model, sliding scale pricing, worker ownership, cultural authenticity, was studied in business schools. "This award belongs to everyone who believed feeding people mattered more than profit margins," he concluded. Standing ovation came from calloused hands that knew work's true value. "Fatima Hassan, Bachelor of Social Work," the announcer called. Amira sobbed openly as her daughter crossed Mumbai University's stage. 5 years ago, they'd arrived as refugees with nothing. Now Fatima held degree funded entirely by Amira's restaurant earnings. The graduation felt like collective victory. Jin sat beside Amira, remembering when Fatima studied under his cart's light. Lakshmi had fed her during exam weeks. Ravi had written recommendation letters. "She wants to help other refugee families," Amira whispered proudly. "Says our struggle inspired her career choice." The underground network hadn't just fed bodies, it had nurtured dreams. Around them sat other success stories, vendors' children becoming doctors, cleaners' son entering engineering. From illegal kitchen to university graduate in one generation, Priya noted, documenting another triumph. Education was ultimate revolution, breaking cycles that poverty tried to enforce. Fatima's diploma represented thousands of informal workers whose sacrifices enabled formal achievements. "Today we announce National Night Workers Food Security Scheme," the minister declared, as cameras captured historic policy shift. Behind him, slides showed Mumbai's model expanding nationwide. Lakshmi sat on stage as chief consultant, her hand-drawn charts now government blueprints. The policy acknowledged what activists had long argued: informal food networks were essential infrastructure, not criminal enterprises. Streamlined licensing, designated zones, and protection from harassment would extend to every Indian city. "We estimate 30 million workers will benefit," officials explained. The numbers felt abstract until you remembered faces, tired security guards, elderly cleaners, migrant cooks. "Government finally learned what we always knew," Lakshmi whispered to Priya. "People feed people better than systems feed people." Critics called it legitimizing illegal activity. Supporters saw it as recognizing reality. Either way, shadows were receiving sunshine. From local movement to national policy in 18 months, a journalist marveled. But for workers grabbing quick meals between shifts, timeline mattered less than dignity. "I solemnly affirm allegiance to Constitution of India," Jin repeated, voice steady despite tears. After 23 years selling noodles on Mumbai streets, he finally held citizenship papers. The ceremony room overflowed with supporters, customers, fellow vendors, and officials who'd once threatened deportation. "From illegal immigrant to Indian citizen," he marveled at the document. His journey represented thousands of stateless workers who built India while remaining legally invisible. "Your contribution to Mumbai's food culture helped your case," the officer explained. Priya's documentation, community petitions, and changed political climate had made impossible possible. "Now I vote," Jin announced to cheers. "First vote goes to whoever protects street vendors." His wife sobbed. Their children could attend university without fear. Grandchildren would never know statelessness. "This paper doesn't make me more Indian," Jin reflected. 20 years feeding Mumbai workers did that. But now, law recognizes what streets always knew. The citizen certificate joined his vendor license on cart display, both equally precious. "Your movement inspired similar networks in Sao Paulo, Lagos, Bangkok," the British director told Amira as cameras rolled. The documentary, titled Midnight Kitchens, Mumbai's Food Revolution, would premiere at Sundance Film Festival. What started as survival strategy had become global inspiration. "We didn't plan revolution," Amira explained on camera. "We just needed to eat and feed others." The crew had spent months capturing transformation, from Priya's first exposé to government policy changes. Interviews with Jin, Lakshmi, Ravi created comprehensive record. "Most movements start top-down," the director noted. "Yours grew from street up. That's why it succeeded." International NGOs studied Mumbai model. Urban planners visited community kitchens. Academic papers analysed network dynamics. But for original members, fame felt strange. "We're not heroes," Lakshmi insisted. "Just humans who refuse to accept hunger as normal."
The documentary would spread their message globally. Dignity wasn't negotiable, anywhere. Mumbai Food Workers Education Fund will provide 50 scholarships annually, Priya announced at packed press conference. The fund, built from book sales and documentary rights, would break cycles that trapped workers' children in similar struggles. Behind her stood beneficiaries, vendor's daughter heading to medical school, cleaner's son accepted into IIT. My mother worked 3 jobs to feed us, shared one recipient. Now I'll become teacher to feed minds. The scholarships covered everything: tuition, books, living expenses. But more importantly, they provided mentorship from network members who'd navigated similar journeys. Education transforms individual lives, Ravi added as fund trustee. But educated individuals transform communities. Corporate sponsors had emerged, wanting association with movement's positive image. Every rupee would fund futures. From feeding bodies to feeding dreams, Lakshmi observed. The network had evolved from survival mechanism to transformation engine. First generation had secured dignity through food. Second generation would secure it through education. 5 years transformed seeds into forest. Jin's single cart had become 50 franchises across Mumbai, each operator owning their business while sharing his values. Amira's Syrian kitchen expanded into 6 locations, employing refugee women while preserving authentic flavors. Her daughter Fatima managed social programs, degree put to perfect use. Lakshmi's community kitchen model operated in 100 cities, feeding millions of elderly workers. Government funding supplemented donations, but her hand-drawn charts still guided operations. Ravi's culinary school had graduated 500 students from slums and nightworker families. They filled kitchens worldwide, carrying philosophy that food meant dignity. Priya's advocacy continued through books, speeches, and journalism awards. But she still reviewed restaurants at midnight, ensuring workers' voices stayed heard. We proved another world possible, she wrote in latest article. The underground had become institution without losing soul. Every success story traced back to that first midnight when courage replaced fear. Mumbai had shown the world that revolution could taste delicious. To those who fed us when nobody else would. Hundreds toasted at the movement's 5th anniversary celebration. The community centre overflowed with people whose lives had intertwined through midnight meals and shared struggles. Tables groaned under weight of contributions. Syrian sweets, Chinese noodles, South Indian dosas, Maharashtrian vada pav. Each dish told story of survival transformed into success. Original network members sat on stage, uncomfortable with hero worship, but accepting gratitude gracefully. We started with empty stomachs and full hearts, Lakshmi reminisced. Now both stay satisfied. Young entrepreneurs shared how Jin's model inspired their businesses. Students thanked Ravi for scholarships. Refugees blessed Amira for preserving their cuisines. The celebration wasn't just about past, but future. New challenges emerged: automation threatening jobs, climate change affecting food supply. But network had proven that collective action worked. Whatever comes next, we face together, Priya declared. Mumbai had rewritten rules once. It would do so again whenever dignity demanded. Dawn painted Mumbai's skyline gold as another night shift ended. But this sunrise felt different from those 5 years ago when workers scattered like criminals. Now they walked openly, carrying tiffins from legitimate vendors, dignity intact after honest night's work. Jin secured his cart, permit displayed proudly. Amira's restaurant switched from night menu to breakfast service. Lakshmi's volunteers prepared for day shift elderly. The city's rhythm continued, but its heartbeat had changed. Beautiful morning, called security guard Rajesh to Priya as she headed home after documenting another midnight. He stood taller these days, union member with health insurance and savings account. The revolution hadn't solved everything. Poverty persisted. Exploitation found new forms. But fundamental truth had been established. Every worker deserved dignity. Every human deserved food. Every story deserved telling. As Mumbai woke, its conscience stayed alert. The underground had surfaced, bringing light to shadows. And in that light, 10 million workers found their faces reflected with respect. This long journey with Ravi through themes of culinary justice and hidden communities shows us that the most important restaurants aren't always the ones with stars and reviews, but the ones that feed people's souls along with their stomachs. If this complete story kept you engaged for the full journey, that like button helps others discover these immersive tales. Subscribe for more long adventures that give you complete, satisfying stories every time. What surprised you most about Mumbai's secret food network? Or have you discovered hole-in-the-wall places that serve incredible food to communities others overlook? Thank you for investing a full journey in this story of cooking, community, and the critic who used her power to protect the people who truly make food culture alive. Sometimes the best meals happen at 3 a.m., served by heroes we never see.